The expedition of Hernando de Soto was the first major exploration of the interior of the southeastern United States in an area the Spanish claimed and called La Florida. Many firsts came out of this expedition, funded by Charles V, the King of Spain, including the discovery of the Mississippi River by European men, where Soto would eventually perish. Our story is about the meeting and subsequent capture of a female cacica that history has referred to as the Lady of Confitechequi. She appears in the various accounts of the De Soto journey, and she disappears as quickly as she enters it. But we should be cautious of how she entered the picture and the manner in which she is described. We have no first-hand account, painting, or drawings of the female leader of the large swath of land that keeps Soto's men alive. The most recent and most in-depth work concerning the Lady of Confitechequi places her center of power around the Mulberry site, which lay at the confluence of the Pine Tree Creek and the Water Tree River, near the present-day Camden, South Carolina. She appears in the story of the Chronicles of Soto as a female cacica that is in charge of a land called Confitechequi, and this was told to contain gold and silver. After approaching the area around the main town, the chronicles mentioned that she was brought out by this manner. The cacica came from the town in carrying chair, in which certain principal Indians carried her to the river. She entered a canoe with an awning at the stern, and on the bottom, which was already spread a mat for her, and above it 2 cushions, one on top of the other, on which she seated herself. Would go on to tell the governor of her land that, with very sincere and open goodwill, I offer you my person, my lands, my vassal, and this poor service. And from her neck she drew a long string of pearl beads, and threw it about the neck of the governor, and his men crossed. The Lady of Confitechequi saw what the Spaniards were after, and led them to the pearls that were located in the graves of those buried nearby. The graves of the town that were examined, and 14 arabos of pearls were found, babies and birds made of them. After several days in Confitechequi, the governor Hernando de Soto was told of riches northward, towards the outskirts of the cacica's land. Knowing that she was an important source of power for her people, the governor and Christian Soto abducted the Lady of Confitechequi. She would accompany them for 13 days into the northern reaches of her land, being a useful translator and bridge of supplies that the 600-plus Spaniards needed to survive. Knowing that she would not be welcome in other territory, the Lady of Confitechequi ran into the dense forest and escaped the grip of the conquistador. Soto continues his journey, crisscrossing the southeast, running into many more cacicas, and eventually the Mississippi River, where he meets his watery grave. But the Lady of Confitechequi disappears from the historical record. We can see in the De Soto map from 1544 there is no Confitechequi, but as time progresses, the details are told, and the chroniclers publish their interpretations of what took place. We can see that Confitechequi makes a large appearance in what is modern South Carolina. But just like the Lady of Confitechequi, the name on the map disappears and leaves us with more questions than answers. Scholars today have looked into the authenticity of those that have published the Soto Chronicles. Patricia Galloway examines many of these concepts in the Hernando Soto expedition. Her and her fellow historians identify the differences among the chroniclers and looking for the truth in these detailed primary sources. In La Florida, Garcilasos de la Vega, the Inca, retells the episode not of a first-hand account, but of a retelling by a soldier on the expedition 40 to 50 years later. The scene of the Lady of Confitechequi is compared to the entrance of Cleopatra meeting with Mark Antony, which would have been well known to those of the time. Galloway points out this commentary might not reflect the events that actually took place. According to the gentleman from Elvas, there were 200 pounds of pearls recovered from the burial site, and yet the inventory of his death only accounts for a little bit of pearl that might weigh 2 atoms. We should look at this story, like we do in all accounts of history, as a part of a larger narrative. For some of the people in our story, like Hernando de Soto, who is memorialized in this grand work in the rotunda of the U.S. Capitol, their story is well known and well accepted. But others, like our chroniclers and the Lady of Confitechequi, their story remains unclear and may never be known. But we continue to look with the same determination as Soto did 450 years ago.